The arrival of the princess. In a world filled with bright colors and busy lives, the day of the alien princess's arrival became one that humans would never forget. It was a sunny morning when the sky filled with strange lights. A large spaceship hovered above the city, gleaming like a silver star. People stopped what they were doing and looked up in awe. Some took out their phones to capture the moment, while others simply stared, mouths open, in disbelief. The ship landed softly in a vast park, surrounded by tall buildings. The ground shook slightly as the spacecraft touched down, sending a small wave of dust into the air. A hush fell over the crowd as the enormous door of the ship opened. From within, a figure emerged, shrouded in a bright light. As the light dimmed, the figure became clear, a beautiful alien princess named Lyra. She had long, flowing hair that shimmered like the night sky and bright eyes that seemed to hold the universe within them. Lyra stepped out, dressed in a stunning outfit that glimmered in the sunlight. It was a mix of colors that changed with every movement she made. Her presence commanded attention, and everyone could feel the power she held. The crowd erupted into cheers, thinking that she had come to help them. They believed she was a friend from another world. As she walked forward, her heart was heavy. This was not just a visit, it was a mission born from pain and betrayal. Lyra had once trusted humans, and they had hurt her deeply. She had come to Earth not only to show her power, but to seek revenge for the wrongs done to her people. Yet in this moment, she wore a mask of calm, hiding the storm of emotions inside. The humans did not know her true intentions. They waved flags and shouted welcoming phrases. Children ran forward, eager to catch a glimpse of the alien princess. Lyra smiled, but it did not reach her eyes. She thought back to her home, the planet Cynthia, where her people once lived in harmony. But now that harmony was shattered, all because of a betrayal by someone she had trusted. Lyra's thoughts drifted to her former friend, a human named Ethan. He had been charming and full of promises. Together, they had dreamed of a bright future for both their worlds. But when the time came to fulfill those dreams, Ethan turned against her. He revealed her plans to his government, leading to the destruction of Cynthia. Her people had perished, and she had barely escaped with her life. Determined to make those who betrayed her pay, Lyra had spent years gathering an army. Powerful warriors from different planets now stood ready, awaiting her command. They were loyal and strong, eager to fight for their princess. As she stood in the park, she could feel their presence, their determination fueling her resolve. The crowd continued to cheer, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing within the princess. A group of officials approached her, eager to discuss a partnership. They bowed respectfully, praising her beauty and strength. Lyra listened politely, nodding, but her mind was elsewhere. She could see the fear in the eyes of her people as they remembered the tales of war. They thought they had come to witness a moment of peace, but Lyra was ready for war. Suddenly, a loud voice cut through the crowd. "What do you want from us, Princess Lyra?" It was a young woman standing at the front, her eyes filled with both curiosity and caution. The crowd fell silent, all eyes on Lyra. Lyra paused, weighing her words carefully. "I come with an offer, but you must understand the cost of betrayal." Her voice was calm but firm, echoing through the park. The people gasped, sensing the tension in the air. "What do you mean?" Someone shouted from the back. "I mean that trust is not easily earned. Those who have wronged me will face the consequences," she declared, her eyes shining with determination. The crowd shifted uneasily. Whispers spread as the reality of her words began to sink in. Lyra took a deep breath. "I seek justice for my people. I seek retribution for the wrongs committed against us." Her voice rose, filled with passion. "You will remember this day, for it is the day the alien princess arrives to reclaim what was lost." As she spoke, she could see the fear in some faces. Others stood in defiance, ready to protect their home. This was the moment she had long awaited. The air crackled with tension as humans began to realize that their welcome was not as simple as they had thought. With a final glance at the crowd, Lyra turned and gestured toward her ship. From its shadows, her army emerged, warriors clad in advanced armor, carrying weapons that glowed with a mysterious light. They marched forward, each step sending a clear message. They were ready for battle. The crowd gasped, some stepping back in fear, while others stood their ground. Lyra looked at her army, feeling the weight of her decision. This was not just a war for revenge. It was a war for survival. She had come to Earth as a princess, but she would leave as a conqueror if necessary. As she stood there, the cheers of the crowd faded into silence. The stakes had been set. The alien princess had arrived, and Earth was about to face the consequences of its betrayal. The battle between trust and vengeance had begun, and neither side would be the same again. The rising tension. As the dust settled from the arrival of Princess Lyra, the atmosphere was thick with unease. The people of Earth were caught between awe and fear. They had welcomed the alien princess with open arms, but now they faced an uncertain future. Whispers filled the air, and the once cheerful crowd shifted nervously, unsure of what would come next. Lyra stood tall, her heart pounding with the weight of her mission. She watched the humans as they tried to comprehend the situation. Many looked fearful, while others showed defiance. She felt a mixture of anger and sadness. They had betrayed her, and yet they seemed so innocent in their confusion. But she had to push those feelings aside. The memory of her destroyed home, of the lives lost, fueled her resolve. "Prepare my army," she commanded, her voice steady. The soldiers behind her straightened, their eyes filled with determination. They were ready to fight for their princess, to avenge the wrongs done to her people. Each warrior was fierce and strong, loyal to the end. They had traveled across the galaxy for this moment, and they would not back down. As the army assembled, the humans watched in silence, realizing that they had not merely welcomed an ally. They had invited a storm. The sight of the powerful alien soldiers filled them with dread. Lyra's reputation as a fierce warrior preceded her. She was not just a princess. She was a conqueror, feared across the galaxy. Ethan, the human who had once been close to Lyra, stood at the forefront of the crowd. He watched with a heavy heart, torn between guilt and disbelief. He remembered the times he and Lyra had laughed together, shared dreams of peace between their worlds. But those dreams had turned into nightmares when he had chosen to betray her for power. Now he felt a deep pang of regret. He had destroyed everything beautiful between them, and now Earth faced the consequences. The leaders of Earth's government gathered quickly, desperate to formulate a plan. They huddled in a circle, speaking in hushed tones. They knew they had to act quickly. If they allowed Lyra's army to establish a foothold, it would be too late. The consequences of their betrayal loomed large, and the air buzzed with anxiety. One of the leaders, a tall man named Director Graves, stepped forward. He addressed the crowd with a shaky voice. "We must show the princess that we are not her enemies. We can still reach an understanding." But his words were met with skepticism and murmurs of discontent. The citizens had already witnessed Lyra's power, and they feared her wrath. "We betrayed her. How can we trust her now?" shouted a voice from the crowd. The speaker was a woman with fierce eyes, her fists clenched in anger. "We must prepare for the worst. She won't stop until she has her revenge." Lyra watched the humans argue. She felt a surge of anger at their lack of trust, but also a deep sadness for what had been lost. If they only knew how much she had once cared for them. If they only knew how much she still wanted peace, even amid her thirst for vengeance. But now they saw her as a threat. As the argument escalated, a small group of humans broke away from the crowd. They stepped toward Lyra, their expressions resolute. Among them was Ethan, who finally found the courage to speak. "Princess Lyra," he called out, stepping forward, "we made a terrible mistake. I can help you understand what happened here. Please, don't destroy us." The crowd fell silent, all eyes on him. Lyra's gaze narrowed as she recognized Ethan. Memories flooded her mind, both joyful and painful. "You," she said, her voice cold. "You dare to speak to me after what you did?" "I know I was wrong," Ethan pleaded, his voice steady but filled with regret. "I was scared, and I thought I was protecting my people. But I see now that I was only causing more harm. We can find a way to fix this." Lyra crossed her arms, her heart conflicted. Ethan had once been a friend, but betrayal was a deep wound. "And why should I trust you now? Your kind turned against me when I needed you most. You put my people at risk for your own gain." Ethan took a deep breath. "Because I know what it feels like to lose trust, and if you destroy us, you will only lose more. I believe there is still a chance for peace. Let me help you. Let me show you that not all humans are your enemies." The tension in the air shifted as people began to whisper among themselves. They watched as their former friend stood before the alien princess, vulnerable and sincere. Lyra felt her resolve waver, just a little. Could she truly believe in the possibility of peace? For a moment, she searched Ethan's eyes for any sign of deception, but all she saw was regret and determination. It was a reminder of their past friendship, of the trust they had once shared. But would she risk everything for it again? "Very well," Lyra said slowly, her voice steady but edged with caution. "I will hear you out. But understand this. If you fail me again, there will be no mercy. My army is prepared to do what must be done." Ethan nodded, a flicker of hope in his heart. "Thank you, Princess Lyra. I promise I won't let you down." With that, Lyra signaled for her army to stand down. The tension in the air began to ease, but the threat of conflict still loomed. The princess had not given up her desire for revenge, but perhaps there was a chance to bridge the gap between their worlds. As the crowd looked on, a fragile sense of hope began to blossom. Perhaps this was not the end, but a new beginning. The battle lines were drawn, and the fate of both worlds hung in the balance. The negotiation. In the days that followed Princess Lyra's arrival, the atmosphere on Earth remained tense. Although she had agreed to hear Ethan's proposal, the princess was still filled with rage and hurt. Her army stood ready, waiting for her command. Each soldier shared her pain, fueled by the memories of their lost homes and the betrayal they had suffered at the hands of humans. Ethan felt the weight of his task. He had managed to gain a moment of trust from Lyra, but it was fragile. He spent every waking moment preparing for their first negotiation, seeking ways to show her that humanity could still be allies, not enemies. The day of the meeting arrived. A large tent was set up in a secure location, away from the prying eyes of both the humans and Lyra's soldiers. It was here that they would attempt to bridge the chasm created by betrayal. The leaders of Earth were nervous, but they knew they had to try. If they didn't find common ground, they faced certain destruction. Ethan entered the tent first, feeling his heart race. He took a deep breath, reminding himself that he was fighting for the future of both their worlds. Moments later, Lyra entered, her presence commanding and regal. She looked fierce in her shining armor, her alien features set in a determined expression. "Let's get this over with," she said coldly, taking her seat at the table. The humans shuffled nervously but sat down, their faces a mixture of fear and hope. Ethan spoke first. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with us, Princess Lyra. We know we have wronged you, but we are here to find a way to make things right." Lyra raised an eyebrow, unimpressed. "You think mere words can mend the damage done? You betrayed me and my people. Why should I trust you again?" "Because betrayal is not the whole of humanity," Ethan replied earnestly. "Not every human is like the ones who turned against you. We want to protect our planet, but we can't do it alone. We need your help. Together, we can ensure both our worlds thrive." The princess leaned back in her chair, contemplating his words. "And what do you propose?" she asked, her voice still icy. Ethan took a deep breath, prepared for the next step. "Let us work together to find a way to prevent further conflict. We can share our resources and knowledge. You can teach us about your technology, and in return, we can offer our scientific advancements. Lyra's expression softened slightly, but she remained cautious. "And why would I teach you? You have already shown that you cannot be trusted." Ethan leaned forward, earnest in his response. "Because we need to rebuild what was broken. We can establish a council where both our peoples can share knowledge and settle disputes peacefully. I can be your liaison, a bridge between our worlds." The other leaders nodded in agreement, their expressions eager yet anxious. They knew they had to stand united in this moment. If they wanted to survive, they had to present a united front. Lyra considered their proposal. The thought of teaching the humans her technology intrigued her, but the fear of another betrayal loomed large. "What guarantees do I have that you won't turn on me again?" she pressed. Ethan glanced at the leaders of Earth, who were now all looking at him, their hopes resting on his shoulders. He thought for a moment, and then said, "We will draw up a treaty, one that binds both our peoples to cooperation and peace. If any party breaks it, they will face consequences. We will also hold regular meetings to ensure transparency." The princess's interest seemed piqued. She had not expected such a thorough plan from humans, but she still had doubts. "And what about my army? What if I choose to keep them here?" Ethan paused, knowing this was a pivotal moment. "We will respect your forces and their presence. They can remain as a sign of our commitment to peace, but you must promise not to use them for aggression against Earth." Lyra felt a flicker of hope, a small part of her that yearned for peace. "If we agree, you will protect my people, correct? No more betrayal." Ethan nodded firmly. "I give you my word. We will protect your army as we protect our own. No one will harm you or your people." After a long silence, Lyra made her decision. "Very well. I will agree to your terms, but know this. I will be watching closely. The moment I sense treachery, there will be no second chances." Ethan exhaled in relief, grateful for the chance to start anew. "Thank you, Princess Lyra. This is the beginning of a new era for both our worlds." With that, they began drafting the treaty, each word written with care and caution. As the humans and the alien princess worked together, a sense of unity began to blossom. They were forging a new path, and though it was fragile, it held the promise of a brighter future. However, in the shadows, dissent grew. Not everyone was pleased with this new alliance. Those who had initially betrayed Lyra remained angry and vengeful, plotting to undermine the fragile peace. As the sun set on the day of their negotiation, Ethan looked at Lyra and felt a sense of hope. He believed they could overcome the past, but as he glanced outside the tent, he couldn't shake the feeling that their troubles were far from over. The path to peace was fraught with challenges, and they would need to be prepared for anything. The rising tension. The treaty between Princess Lyra and the leaders of Earth marked a new chapter in their histories. However, the atmosphere remained tense. While some welcomed the peace, others plotted against it. Dissenters among the humans feared the alien princess and her army. They believed that working with Lyra would lead to more betrayal, not less. In the shadows, groups began to form, planning to sabotage the fragile alliance. As days turned into weeks, the treaty was slowly put into action. Lyra and her people began sharing their advanced technology, which intrigued many on Earth. The humans, eager to learn, worked alongside the alien soldiers, exchanging knowledge and ideas. However, the agreement was met with skepticism from the public. News spread of Lyra's arrival and the treaty, but many still viewed her kind with fear. Ethan worked tirelessly to promote the treaty, traveling to various cities to speak about the benefits of cooperation. He held public forums, trying to quell fears and explain that peace was the only way forward. "We must stand united against threats," he urged. "Together, we are stronger." But even as he spoke, rumors of betrayal circulated. Whispers of a plot to undermine the alliance began to spread. The dissenters were organized and relentless, meeting in dark corners, sharing their fears, and spreading mistrust. They believed that if they could convince enough people, they could turn the tide against the princess and her army. One evening, Ethan received an urgent message from Princess Lyra. "I wish to meet with you tonight," it read. His heart raced with concern. What could be troubling her? Later that night, he arrived at the tent where Lyra was staying. The atmosphere was tense, and her face was etched with worry. "Thank you for coming, Ethan," she said, her voice low. "I sense unrest among your people." Ethan nodded, knowing she was right. "Yes, there are those who still believe we cannot be trusted. They are spreading lies about you and your army." Lyra sighed heavily. "I can feel the anger and fear in the air. My soldiers sense it too. If this continues, it could lead to violence." "Is there anything I can do?" Ethan asked, desperate to help. "I believe we need to address these fears directly," she replied. "A public demonstration of goodwill could go a long way in easing tensions. Perhaps we could show the people the strength of our alliance." Ethan considered her suggestion. "That might work. A joint demonstration of our technologies and forces could help convince them we mean no harm." They began to plan the event together. They decided it would take place in the capital city, where both the alien and human forces would showcase their abilities and achievements. Lyra would lead her soldiers in a display of strength, while humans would present their innovations in technology and science. The aim was to show that their strengths complemented each other and that working together could lead to a better future for both races. As the date approached, excitement began to build, but so did the tension. The dissenters were not idle. They had their own plans, determined to disrupt the event and discredit the treaty. Their leader, a man named Jackson, was charismatic and persuasive. He rallied supporters with fiery speeches, claiming that the princess was merely biding her time, waiting for the moment to strike. "Don't be fooled," he shouted at a gathering of angry citizens. "The alien princess may seem friendly, but she is here to conquer us. We must act before it's too late." The crowd murmured in agreement, their fears escalating. Jackson's words ignited a flame of anger in their hearts. They decided they must stop the demonstration at all costs, convinced that it would be the final step toward their own destruction. Meanwhile, on the eve of the demonstration, Ethan and Lyra met again. "This is our chance," Ethan said, filled with hope. "If we can show the people that we are united, it may change everything." "I agree," Lyra said, her eyes shining with determination. "But we must be prepared. If there are those who wish to see us fail, we need to anticipate their actions." Ethan nodded. "We'll need extra security and a plan to ensure the event goes smoothly." As they finalized their preparations, Lyra looked at Ethan. "I hope that our efforts will be enough to win the trust of your people." Ethan smiled, trying to reassure her. "I believe in our alliance, and I believe in you, Lyra. Together, we will show them that unity is stronger than fear." The next day, the demonstration began. Crowds gathered in the capital city, some excited, others wary. Lyra led her soldiers, their armor shining under the sun, while humans prepared to showcase their technologies. The atmosphere was electric, filled with anticipation. But in the shadows, Jackson and his followers were ready. They had infiltrated the crowd, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. As Lyra began her speech, calling for unity and understanding, a loud explosion rocked the area. Panic erupted. The crowd surged, pushing back in fear. Chaos spread as people screamed and scrambled to escape. In the confusion, Ethan and Lyra locked eyes, both realizing the enormity of the challenge they now faced. "Stay close," Ethan shouted, trying to guide her through the chaos. But the dissenters had made their move, and the fight for peace had just become a battle for survival. The chaos of betrayal. The loud explosion echoed in the air, sending shockwaves through the crowd. Panic erupted as people scrambled for safety, their faces pale with fear. Lyra's heart raced as she grasped the severity of the situation. She had hoped that today would showcase the strength of their alliance, but now chaos reigned. "Ethan," Lyra shouted, her voice barely audible above the noise. She searched for him amidst the frantic crowd. As the smoke began to clear, She saw him struggling to reach her, his face set with determination. "Get to the stage," Ethan shouted back, pointing to the elevated platform where they had planned to speak. "We need to get control of the situation." With her soldiers around her, Lyra moved toward the stage. She could see her troops forming a protective circle around the platform, their faces determined. As she climbed the steps, she turned to the crowd, raising her hands to signal for calm. "Everyone, please, stay calm." Lyra's voice cut through the chaos. "We are here to help you." But the crowd was in disarray, driven by fear and panic. Jackson's followers pushed against the police barricades, chanting angrily, "Down with the aliens. Protect our world." Ethan joined Lyra on the stage, his expression serious. "We need to show them we are not their enemy. We have to act now." Lyra nodded, her heart pounding. "I will speak to them. They need to hear the truth." As she turned to face the crowd again, she felt a surge of courage. "People of Earth, please listen to me." Her voice rang out, strong and clear. "I am not your enemy. I am here to build a future where we can coexist in peace, but we must not let fear divide us." The angry chants subsided slightly as some of the crowd began to listen. Yet, in the back, Jackson rallied his supporters, shouting, "Don't believe her lies. This is their plan, to take over our world." Ethan stepped forward, trying to counter Jackson's rhetoric. "That's not true. We are stronger together. This demonstration was meant to show you our unity, not to deceive you." But Jackson continued to incite fear, pointing dramatically at Lyra. "Look at her. She stands there while chaos reigns. This is what happens when we trust aliens." In the crowd, murmurs of agreement rippled through the people, and Lyra felt the tension tighten like a noose around her. It was clear that Jackson had turned many against her, and the seeds of doubt were taking root. Realizing that she needed to take decisive action, Lyra stepped off the stage. "I will prove to you that my intentions are good," she declared, her voice steady. "I will lead my soldiers into the chaos and protect you. Watch us fight for your safety." Ethan grabbed her arm, concern etched on his face. "Lyra, be careful. This is dangerous." "I have to do this," she replied firmly, determination in her eyes. "They need to see that I care for them, that I am here to protect them." Lyra moved towards the edge of the platform, her soldiers following her lead. "Stay close," she instructed them, her voice resolute. "We will show them that we can protect each other." As they descended into the fray, the noise and confusion intensified. People pushed against each other, desperate to escape the chaos. Lyra's soldiers formed a barrier, shielding civilians from harm. She felt the weight of responsibility heavy on her shoulders, but her resolve only strengthened. Suddenly, Jackson's followers surged forward, trying to break through the lines of soldiers. "Stop them," someone shouted, and panic erupted once more. Lyra raised her voice. "We are here to help you. Please stand down." But her words fell on deaf ears. A clash broke out as Jackson's supporters attacked, fueled by anger and fear. The chaos was overwhelming, and Lyra knew they needed to regain control. Ethan stood by her side, shouting orders to the soldiers. "Hold the line. Protect the civilians." He glanced at Lyra. "We need to show them we are united, that we can stand against violence together." With renewed determination, Lyra stepped forward, her soldiers forming a protective circle around her. "Enough," she shouted, her voice piercing through the chaos. "I will not allow fear to dictate our actions. We are allies." The fighting paused for a moment as people turned to look at her. The sight of the alien princess, standing firm against the tide of anger, caught their attention. Slowly, the chaos began to ebb as people listened. "Together, we can find peace," Lyra continued, her voice rising above the noise. "We can protect our world from true threats, but we cannot do it divided." A moment of hesitation hung in the air. Some began to lower their weapons, confusion replacing anger. Jackson stepped forward, furious. "Don't listen to her. She's manipulating you." Ethan, sensing the shift, turned to the crowd. Remember why we started this alliance. It was to build a better future, free from conflict. We cannot let fear drive us apart. As more people began to calm down, Lyra seized the moment. Join us. Stand with us in this fight for peace. Show that humanity can unite with us, instead of letting fear control our actions. With a rallying cry, the soldiers and civilians began to stand together. One by one, people stepped forward, dropping their weapons and raising their hands in solidarity. The tide was turning, and Lyra could feel hope rising in her chest. But Jackson's anger boiled over. "This isn't over. You will regret this," he shouted before fleeing into the crowd. As the last of the chaos subsided, Lyra turned to Ethan, her heart racing. "We did it," she breathed, a mix of relief and triumph washing over her. "We showed them that we can stand united." Ethan smiled, but he knew that this was only the beginning. Jackson and his followers were still out there, plotting their next move. "We need to prepare for what comes next," he said, his expression serious. Lyra nodded, determination returning to her eyes. "We will not let betrayal define our future. Together, we will build a world where trust and cooperation can flourish." With renewed resolve, they knew that their fight for peace was far from over. But today, they had taken a crucial step forward, proving that even in the face of chaos, unity could shine through. Ethan smiled, but he knew that this was only the beginning. Jackson and his followers were still out there, plotting their next move. "We need to prepare for what comes next," he said, his expression serious. Lyra nodded, determination returning to her eyes. "We will not let betrayal define our future. Together, we will build a world where trust and cooperation can flourish." With renewed resolve, they knew that their fight for peace was far from over. But today, they had taken a crucial step forward, proving that even in the face of chaos, unity could shine through.